Hello YouTubers, I'm just going to do a quick review and an opinion on this Gamo Whisper Sting. I bought it second hand from Pelpax. I went in there to visit the place. I asked them if they had any used air rifles or pistols, and they had 3 rifles, and I thought this was the pick of the bunch. It cost me 50 quid. They're about 120 quid new, and they come with a telescopic sight. Mine didn't come with that. Because I didn't want that. I just want to use the sort of on-sight sort of thing. Anyway, what I discovered is, it might be why the person sold it, and to be honest, I'm still quite pleased with it. And what I'll do, I'll give you all my opinion on it in the end. I'm just going to sort of do a little bit on this site, because I've done a bit of research online. That seems to be a common problem, where this back blade, basically that was all loose, and I was trying to sight it up the other day. And that was ridiculous. Every time I shot it, the sort of recoil of the gun moved the sight, and I couldn't really sight it in. So what I've done is a cheap fix. I had one idea which I sort of abandoned. I'll show you what that was. So no, that sight there is really firm. And before I'd done the fix, that was wiggling like hell. So and that was useless to even try to attempt to sight it up, because that changed every time you shot it. So what I'll do now, I'll just show you what I've done right quick, and then I'll give you my opinion on the Gamo. And I must say, I did vow I would. I'm a bit old school, and I did vow that I'd never buy a plastic rifle or one with a plastic stock and the rest of it. So I'll tell you all about that in a bit, and I'm just now going to change the camera. Okay, so basically, I had a quick look at it. Wasn't obvious how it come off. Some of them have screw holes. That's not mounted on a dovetail or anything. There's a dovetail bit on the back of the rifle, back this way, obviously where the telescopic sights that came with it went. But like I say, I want to shoot Vulcan sights, and so basically, if you just sort of press down lightly on the sight to take any tension off, you just unscrew this wheel all the way out, and carefully let that lift up, and under there you'll see there's a spring, and in there's a little detent, but you'll find, I don't know if that's just mine, when you come and put it back together, the spring doesn't quite line up with that. Perhaps it does when it's at a higher angle, but anyway, so here's the offending bit. Now to get this off, it's a one-way thing. You just basically, there's a pin on the other side here. Basically just tap that out. You can't go wrong, because on the other side it's got like a flattened head, so it only goes in one way. So basically tap that pin out to get this bit off. And I'm not going to take this apart again. Normally I sort of do take it apart on camera, but what it is, there's a little very tiny pin on the end of the windage adjusting screw, and my eyesight ain't great, and I struggle getting it back on, so I'll just show you what I've done basically. Also, when I turned this before I fixed it, there was no clicking. Normally you'd expect something to sort of hold it firm, and when I took this out, once you remove that pin, basically just unscrew this wheel left, and that will eventually come out off the threaded part on the sight. And what I noticed with that is that was not a full circle hole, that was just like a half one, so perhaps that was designed to clip on and then the threading work. But that's not a great design, but this fix, what I've done is made it really good. Now originally, if you can see, there's 2 washers. I glued them on either the side of the sort of half circle threaded part, just so that perhaps in case it didn't slip out. Anyway, to be honest, I think that was unnecessary. So basically what I've done, I've got some of this. This is called magic film. This will clean and blocks, get stains and dirt off anything, and actually they do work. And what it is, that's a very sort of firm type sponge, but it does wear away quickly, and the water sort of runs out, because I thought, oh well, but if I hold water in there that won't be good. But this is not exactly like a normal sponge. It's called a magic sponge. They're about £1 for 4, and I just cut with scissors a little thin slice, and under the sight here, I shoved a bit of that film. Now if you notice on the other side, You can see a little bit there, and I sort of pushed to the side, but don't worry about that. You can trim that off after, so don't worry if that all pokes out. So shove a bit of the magic sponge under there, put your pin back in, screw it into the sight, get it more or less in the middle, get that through to the other side, get your clip back on, and you will find once you get it back together that sight is now really stiff and you can still adjust it. Now obviously eventually that sponge is going to wear out, but to be honest you're not going to adjust your windage that much. You're more likely to adjust the up and down movement. So that's how I curd that, and that now is firm, it's not moving at all, so I've got to sight it up as yet. Now one other thing, when you take the screw out, be careful, you really want to do it so the screw is facing down, because in the end there's a tiny little hole on the edge of the screw head, and with a spring and a little ball. Now my little ball was missing, so I imagine someone had a look at this sight, couldn't figure out how to sort it out, and so what I'd done, I didn't have any little tiny balls. I found a really small thin bolt that fitted in the hole, and I just chopped a little tiny amount off, pushed it in the hole, and obviously when you put it back together you got to hold the screw up the other way so that pin doesn't fall out. Push it through, get your clip in, and now mine has got a little bit of a clicky feel to it. I cut a bit exactly right and that worked great, and then I lost it and that was so small I couldn't find it, so I cut another one. That wasn't as good as the first, but to be honest I was finished with it. But that bit of sponge now gives resistance to it anyway, so the clicking really is probably not as important. So so once you've done that, just make sure your spring is in, get your top screw and mind you don't cross the thread. Just hold that down to take the tension off the spring while you screw it in. You'll start to hear it click, just gently until it won't click anymore, and I just done mine up 6 notches, and just to give me a starting point for sighting up. Just line this bit up by eye, roughly in the middle. So I haven't got round to sighting it yet, but we'll do that at a later time. So anyway, about the rifle, second hand, 50 quid bargain. Now I've sorted that out, I was happy with it before that anyway, because if I couldn't have done that I'd have just got a little cheap scoop and put it on the dovetail. They call it a Whisper. I wouldn't say that is particularly loud, it's not particularly silent as you'd call a Whisper. So it's got the big old suppressor on the end, or moderator if you want to call it that, and perhaps without it that was a hell of a lot noisy, I don't know, and I'm not even going to bother taking it off to find out, because no, I vowed I don't like plastic stocks. I'm a bit traditional, old school, and I must say though that the weight of the rifle is just lovely. It's well balanced, cock's nice, it feels good quality. I can't fault it for what I paid. Even if I paid full price, even if I paid 150, I'd be happy with it, to be honest. I couldn't stop shooting it. The cocking was so easy. You get your hand on that big old thing, that gives you a bit more leverage, little click, and inside there, that's all you can see. That just feels good, good quality. So the Gamo Sting Whisper, I like it. So that's my opinion. Probably would buy guns now with synthetic stocks. The weight issue is a real bonus, I must say. So I'm impressed. Say once you sort this sight out, I think that is a common problem. A little bit of sponge, 10-minute job, and that now is rock solid. So I hope that's of help to someone, and that's my opinion on the gun. Being an old school, there's probably a lot of people like me out there, a bit traditional, don't like change, but I must say I'm impressed, and the weight factor is the biggest thing. Doesn't scratch easy. You say this is a used gun, there's not a mark on it. You could scratch it probably if you mistreated it or dropped it, but honestly that wouldn't matter. That feels good. It's well balanced. That's just got the trigger safety and the trigger guard there. There is adjustment on the trigger. There's a hole through there in the trigger guard. I haven't done nothing with that yet, to be honest. It feels good, and my opinion is if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And yeah, I look forward to setting up the sights. and once we do that, we'll perhaps do a little video of it shooting with some of the other rifles we've had on the channel. And yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I've got a new crony coming soon, hopefully. This will add a new dimension to a lot of our videos. We've got some ideas to do with the crony. Hope that'll be useful. So see you soon.